You're listening to ARC Advisory Group's Digital Transformation Podcast, where we explore how people, processes, and technology converge in the industrial sector to shape a more digital and more sustainable future. In every episode, we talk with industry leaders who are navigating their digital transformation journey in practical and sometimes novel ways. Whether you're a business professional or just curious, these conversations will give you fresh ideas on accelerating your digital transformation through effective governance, change management, and application of technology at scale. From data historians to industrial data fabrics, industrial automation and robotics hardware, factory software to enterprise software, and the fast-evolving industrial AI ecosystem, there's always something new to learn. If you want to go further and make a real difference, be sure to connect with us at ARC Advisory Group. Our expertise can help your organization govern and adopt safe and secure industrial-grade technologies at scale, driving both innovation and results.
Welcome to the ARC Advisory Podcast, where we explore the intersection of technology, digital transformation, and sustainable practices. In today's episode, we're diving into the fascinating world of industrial AI, and more specifically, applications of computer vision in the industrial AI toolset. I'm here today with Larry O'Brien, and I am Colin Masson. I neglected to introduce myself. I'm the Research Director for Industrial AI at ARC. Great. Looking forward to this conversation, Larry.
Hi. Thanks for having me here today. I look forward to talking about it.
Great. Let's tackle the fundamental concept of computer vision. I know that when I went to Hannover Messe, a few months ago, I saw lots of examples of using video and applying AI. It was probably the most realistic or the most scale adoption of AI that I actually saw at Hannover Messe. There was lots of examples of generative AI, but they were mostly proof of concept. They still delivering value in the respect that they were making it easier to find documentation, or they were kind of assisting somebody and kind of ramping up on some complex software. But if I had to say what I thought was probably the real scale application of AI in a set of industrial use cases, it was computer vision. And we've kind of included it in ARC's definition of industrial AI as one of the tools tools and techniques for AI that you should be using. But I want to ask you, how are you defining computer vision?
I'm glad to hear you say that, although I didn't make it to Hanover this year. I've been many times in the past, but I'm glad to hear you say that computer vision was this huge, AI-based application at the fair, because I see exactly the same thing. So let's start with a brief definition of computer vision, right? Because maybe not everybody knows what we mean when we say computer vision. And that's really any kind of visual input that's going to go into a computer, right? A lot of people use the term machine vision. I personally think that's a little more limited to, inspection applications and, things coming off an assembly line, traditional machine vision. But some people call it machine vision. Some people call it computer vision. It's really just computerizing any kind of video or optical kind of input to me, right? And whether that's, closed circuit TV or infrared cameras, tons of different types of video related input and sensing based technologies are out there. It's become one of the most active areas for applying analytics and industrial AI today. Because it is so ubiquitous. They are ubiquitous, ranging from pure manufacturing applications, like I just mentioned with traditional machine vision and inspection, to things like worker safety, right? You want to make sure your workers have PPE on, when they go into certain areas and so forth. So we use video to determine that. We have video surveillance and perimeter protection and things like asset management, right? We have video cameras trained on key assets to determine if there's any abnormal behavior and lots of other functions. The combination of computer vision with the fast-moving field of AI, right, and analytics seems to be kind of a natural for a lot of suppliers and also for a lot of end users right now. And that's why we're seeing so many opportunities out there and so many new applications right now. It really is one of the primary use cases, not just for AI and analytics, but also for digital transformation strategies, right? For many users, this is the application that they will start on. We want to do some more intelligent video analytics. But however, as I'm sure you also saw at Hanover, there are a lot of suppliers out there doing this, right? Many suppliers are kind of niche and they're doing it in certain areas and certain applications. And we have a whole spectrum of suppliers from the very niche to the, we can offer you AI and video analytics no matter what your camera is or, what kind of sensors you're using or what have you. So that makes it a little more complicated, and what I'd like to talk about today is I do want to talk about, the use cases and the technologies and stuff, but I also want to talk about the different types of suppliers, that are part of this landscape. Because it is a wide, and varied and very, suppliers that are coming from very different areas, let's put it that way. And some of them are branching out into other areas and, some are more remaining within their niche. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. The other thing I'd like to talk about is just how every manufacturer has to deal with multiple kinds of video or computer inputs and measurements. These traditional applications have lasted for many years, so trying to identify use cases can be a challenge too. So I do want to talk about, what some of those key use cases are and what the expected benefits are. Analytics, these can be applied to just about anything, and we're seeing it. Really what we're seeing is the pattern recognition capabilities of AI, right? The ability to go through huge amounts of imagery and be able to pick out, that one thing that maybe you need to work on or that one asset that's about to fail. That's where I think in general, that's where a lot of the value of AI comes in, is that ability to do pattern recognition through, huge volumes of data that are out there. So.
Okay, Larry, let's talk about the use cases. So I can think of many myself and saw quite a few, as I said, at Hanover Messe. I'm sure you've spent a lot more time digging into talking with the whole landscape of vendors, as you've mentioned, that have been in this space or are now entering this space with kind of renewed energy. So let's start with a discussion of what those use cases are, and then we can transition to talking about the vendors.
Yeah, there's a lot of use cases, and I should probably tell you that I first started getting into this, based on an inquiry from a customer that we had about video analytics, right? And that is part of the issue here, is that there are so many use cases that go across so many different areas. We have smart surveillance applications, access control, perimeter control. I think kind of the, what you would think of as the traditional, closed circuit TV applications where you're looking for people that probably shouldn't be in a particular place, or you want to protect the perimeter of your refinery. So you want to make sure you have a full, 360-degree view of what's happening. You have remote inspection and monitoring applications where we have things like robots and drones, going out to certain areas and inspecting remote assets. That could be in the power industry, inspecting, high voltage transmission lines. It could be in a process plant where you have robots that are inspecting sensitive areas of the plant that are prone to emissions and things like that. We have traditional machine vision applications that I mentioned before, where you have products, coming off a transfer line or an assembly line, and you want to do very rapid inspection of these products for defects and irregularities and so forth. So there's many, many different use cases, right? Expanding all the way from surveillance to actual real-time manufacturing applications. So I think this is one of the few technologies actually out there that spans the entire spectrum, right? From these types of very, maybe more simple types of surveillance all the way through to these very high speed, high sensitivity, huge amounts of data for, product quality inspections and so forth.
I was going to say, and you got to product quality. I was going to prompt you there that, from our research, and we looked at kind of 25 industrial AI use cases kind of spread across everything from the connected worker type use cases, which some of them touched on, which might be more around safety applications, to security or loss prevention as well,
that's
right?
Yeah.
But the one that we saw, there was two use cases that we saw pop to the top, and one of them was more machine learning for anomaly detection. So that's predictive maintenance type use cases are by far the most pervasive, shall we say, when we talk to our end users about how they're applying AI. But pretty close up there is quality, which is predominantly using computer vision to inspect the quality, whether it's on a discrete manufacturer's packaging line or assembly line, or looking at the components on a circuit board. There's lots of applications of it, and I talked with Zeiss a couple of years ago, who were really starting to do some very sophisticated things, not just with computer vision, but obviously we associate Zeiss with lenses and optics.
Oh, sure.
So that was certainly part of the equation.
Sure. Yeah. And that's something we'll get a little bit into, right? Because Zeiss is very strong in optics, and now they're applying analytics. Where else might this go, right? Could it go beyond?
Well, and Sony is another one. I should mention Sony, right? Because Sony
and
is...
I have a bunch more, actually, examples that I want to give later on. But yeah, you're right. The product quality and the, asset management aspects of this are two of the really leading applications. And I also think employee safety, is another big one.
Yes, and I can recall some early use cases. It was an oil and gas company, but it was on their retail side of the business, where they were using cameras looking for people smoking next to the gas pumps, and unsafe practices to alert people inside that, hey, there could be something dangerous happening outside on their forecourt. So I mean, there's been lots of applications of that we can point to, but it just seems to be taking off. And I'd love to maybe frame the next question, which is, what is the landscape looking like now? It seems like it's, if it's scaling out, it must be scaling out because there's lots of players jumping in and recognizing the market opportunity, and maybe that's because the cost of sensors has come down, so the cameras themselves have improved. And of course, when we talk about the hyperscalers' investments in the infrastructure and the algorithms, the horsepower you need to do that analytics, that must be driving it down. But give us the landscape as you see it, Larry.
Well, like you said about cameras and optics, right? You don't have to go very far to find, large numbers of very cheap and readily available intelligent IP cameras out there that have infrared features and everything else, right? So that technology has become highly commoditized. But I think by the same token, you also have some suppliers out there that are extremely specialized, in developing, very high-end optical measurement devices and things like that. So, and we do see a varied and complex landscape right now. Basically, we have about 5 classes of suppliers that are all converging on this space at once, which I think is kind of typical for these forming markets, right? There's a lot of kind of chaos and, a lot of volatility going on right now, a lot of changes happening right now, and everybody's jumping into this space in different ways, right? So you have the traditional machine vision providers that are coming in. You have the hyperscalers, like AWS and Microsoft and so forth. You have traditional closed circuit TV and video surveillance providers and access control providers. And that was kind of how I got brought into this, because I'm covering building automation systems, right? And CCTV is a huge part of the overall solution set for building automation systems, and it's becoming increasingly integrated. We also have people that do video for things like parking and stuff like that, for smart city type applications. Although we're primarily focusing on the industrial right now. We have robotics and drone inspection providers that I mentioned earlier, and these are the companies like Boston Robotics, that are going out into industrial environments with these robots and inspecting plant equipment and so forth. And finally, we also have open foundations and consortia, right? Providing the community with a lot of free tools or open source tools that they can use to create their own video analytics if they want to. I just wanted to kind of touch on each one of these briefly, just in broad strokes. The robotic and drone inspection providers. Let's start with them, right? They tend to have their own video analytics capabilities that they've embedded into their robots and drones. These capabilities right now, they're not easily extended to a wide range of other applications, but they're really focusing on, the stuff that they're doing right now, their robots and their drones and so forth. But, we really see some potential for that to start to branch out, as they start gaining more knowledge through what they're doing with their inspection solutions. I think it's just a natural evolution for them maybe to start branching out into other areas. Right now, the picture to me isn't all that clear as to how they're going to do that, but it's something to watch out for. And we even see a little bit of overlap between what robotic and drone inspection people are doing and what's the machine vision providers are doing, right? So the machine vision providers, as I mentioned before, they tend to focus more on the inspection-related applications, but they're expanding into other areas of functionality. So as they apply AI to their solutions, that's paving the way for simplified products and an improved user experience. And, it has the ability to create more of a wide-ranging and integrated machine vision system, Then we have the platform-independent vision and AI analytics providers. And these are the companies that, largely startup companies, new companies that are out there. They have the promise of straddling, the entire spectrum, of these types of applications. So they'll say you can put our analytics solution on any type of camera or optical sensor that you have. Right now, they tend to be a little bit more heavily weighted towards closed circuit TV and maybe video surveillance, but we definitely see them branching out into other areas. And then we have CCTV and video surveillance providers that I've already mentioned, And I've already seen them, in the wake of COVID, they've branched out into the world of employee health and safety, right? So instead of just doing access control, they'll have thermal imaging cameras that will determine if people in the workplace might have a fever, right? They have analytics that can determine if people are congregating in certain areas or, during the COVID pandemic, they would use it to enforce social distancing, for example. So with all these different classes, and then we have the hyperscalers, and they're doing a whole range of applications, right? So they're working with different partners. So the hyperscalers have just scads of different case studies that they're doing. They can almost be universally applied to a huge range of applications. So let's start. I'd like to go into a little bit more detail with each one of these.
Maybe before you jump into that.
Yeah, sure.
I guess as you were describing that, the hyperscalers and the partner ecosystem. I know certainly a lot of the robotics companies have partnerships with many of those providers. And so I guess it begs the question, as it does in a lot of our other industrial AI use cases and domains, there's kind of the embedded capabilities in those robots or machines, right, where they may need to do something, identify an object, or in somewhat near real time or on the edge, regardless of whether they're connected to the cloud. And then, of course, there's the flip side of that, where a lot of the training may infer moving some of that data to the cloud to build the model that gets deployed back down to that edge machine. Let's keep it generic for now. So any thoughts on kind of the expertise that's in those robotics companies in applying and kind of making sure that you can still do the job with or without that cloud connectivity? Is that still a work in progress?
Well, I can't speak much to how well they might do or not do their cloud connectivity. Certainly all of this data is finding its way up into the cloud. This is, in a lot of cases, it's valuable maintenance data. In a lot of cases, it could be regulatory reporting data, product quality data. So all this kind of, and that all tends to be transactional data, right? It's not real time, right? Control data. So this data is finding its way up into the cloud. I think one of the things you have to consider, when you're looking at these different classes of suppliers is what their level of security is, right? So, as an analyst that also works on the cybersecurity side of our business here at ARC, which focuses pretty much exclusively on the OT side of cybersecurity, I would say that's definitely a dimension that you want to use to evaluate your supplier. And supplier selection is a really important part of this whole thing. I think if you're going to evaluate any of these different suppliers, if you don't have several, key cyber selection related selection criteria, you're obviously making a huge mistake. And you need to know what their cloud security is going to be and who their cloud partners are, and all of that really. And then that brings us, we could probably talk for an hour about supply chain, cybersecurity, how well you should trust your partners. And that is something that we can help people, we can advise people on is, what are some of the things that you should look for, in terms of a good security posture for any potential supplier. So definitely something to consider there.
Great. Now, I cut you off. You were about to dig deeper, I think.
I was going to dig a little bit deeper into some of these different supplier categories and just give some examples of how AI is actually being used.
And that may answer my previous question. So let's maybe look at those and talk about each category.
Complexities regarding architecture and things like that, but I think it's important to know where some of these things are being used. I wanted to start with CCTV and video surveillance because that really is kind of the leading application right now. So many suppliers are increasingly integrating multiple functions for CCTV and employee health and safety and surveillance and also access control into a single industrial Internet of Things enabled kind of environment, right? And that's particularly true for access control systems. I know we're seeing a lot of our customers in the heavy process industries. Access control is really important for a lot of these companies. You don't want the wrong people not only getting into your facility by breaching the perimeter, but if you're doing a maintenance turnaround at a refinery, for example, and you have hundreds of contractors, walking around on your site, right? You want to maybe put in some geofencing applications and make sure that workers are only in the areas that they're supposed to be designated in. And if they're there, then they also have to wear the proper protective equipment, right? And all this kind of stuff. It's all kind of integrated now. And that's what we're seeing. These analytics are being applied towards this unified view of what's going on, to provide a more holistic picture of what's happening. And CCTV is probably the most obvious example of how that's being done right now. However, a lot of these suppliers, that are offering CCTV and surveillance solutions don't have any expertise in process monitoring or remote inspection or anything.
I was going to ask about that because a lot of the existing use cases I think of are probably more retail focused, where you've been doing shopper analytics and traffic monitoring and loss prevention kind of in retail use cases. It's been there for quite a long time. So I was intrigued as you kind of jumped into this about the domain expertise, right? So, and I can just think about how much more complex a refinery, which, they can be many square miles of equipment, right? And as you say, lots of complex unit operations, and you've got safety, health, security, maintenance use cases.
So the typical CCTV and access control supplier, they might tell you, you have a blocked emergency exit, or you have people loitering in areas where they shouldn't be, or maybe you have, I'm looking at a slide right now from Bosch, okay, for example, and these are some of the things that do with CCTV, left and removed object detection, person detection, so the people are in the right place, railway crossings, worker safety. If I'm in a warehouse, I have to monitor how the workers are using the various forklifts and pickers and things like that. But yeah, not so much on the process monitoring side, right? So that's where, some of this discussion of providing an integrated AI and analytics-based solution across your entire spectrum of computer vision applications starts to be kind of an attractive proposition for a lot of end users, right? And end users are starting to think about this right now. And there is a business value proposition behind this too. I mean, if you want to take a more unified approach to, applying AI and analytics to all of your computer vision applications on a unified platform, some of the users we've spoken with say they expect, 10 to 15% reductions in security and monitoring expenses. Maybe overall safer operations, fewer accidents, right? I mean, incidents and accidents cost manufacturers huge amounts of money, never mind the most important thing, which is, harm to the people and the workers that are in the plant. Everybody should go home safe at the end of the day at a plant. You can do things like automate encroachment detection, allow security personnel to take more proactive steps, right, to manage any kind of an emerging situation. You can improve your compliance, and just overall improve your data gathering capabilities. So the bottom line is you can actually, reduce your costs, by providing a more integrated approach to applying this AI and analytics to all of your computer vision applications. But I think the point is with this kind of very varied, environment of suppliers, you really have to be careful about who you're looking at and who you want to pick as a supplier. So CCTV.
And you're talking about CCTV, I think was this category that we got into, and a lot of the use cases may span, other categories clearly. So CCTV, what are they, is it linked to proprietary hardware? Is it, you've got to use their TV to basically get these capabilities? Is that how we should think about this segment?
These are becoming more open, I think.
Okay.
A lot of suppliers and vendors are offering solutions that can work on just about anybody's camera. And I think that's even the case with the CCTV suppliers. I mean, they don't want to be limited to their own hardware. I think that's probably more likely when you're looking at the robotic and drone inspection providers. Their video AI and analytics tend to be more directly coupled with their equipment. And in my opinion, they'll probably be the last to break out, as far as like decoupling, the hardware from the software, right? And I think this is a natural evolution that we see a lot of times in the industrial marketplace. You have these products that are, highly proprietary, and the proprietary software is embedded into the hardware. And then over time, more open technologies develop, and gradually the software can be decoupled from this proprietary hardware, and it can be applied to a much wider range of products, through various APIs and so forth. And, we're already seeing that.
And you may be jumping ahead to kind of one of the later questions I kind of want to ask you, which is, how should end users approach this?
Yeah.
Maybe you should still get deeper into the other segments of the market. You've kind of got into the CCTV.
Yeah, so I will. And I wanted to start with these hyperscalers, right, because they are doing this. So you have Amazon Recognition, which is a cloud-based service that offers a wide range of image and video analysis capabilities that you can apply to all kinds of equipment. You have Microsoft Azure AI Vision, which is a cloud-based service that provides a huge variety of computer vision APIs, including object detection. It can classify objects and images and videos and generate captions and visual features. You have Google Cloud Vision AI, right? Another cloud-based API that offers image detection features for a wide range of things. This requires a little bit more of a solution, putting a solution together, right? I mean, the hyperscalers aren't going to provide you with a packaged industrial solution, right out of the box. So in a lot of cases, you have to apply this to specific vendor products, and with the aid of with a solution provider or systems integrator, put that solution together. The CCTV centric suppliers. So that's where we have companies like Bosch and Hikvision and Honeywell.
You didn't mention AWS. I mean, we shouldn't forget AWS in that mix of
and that was
hyperscalers.
Recognition. That was actually the first one that I mentioned, which is a really interesting one. because I was reading about this the other day, and they are working with, hang on a second, I'll have this up in 1 second here. They're working with a leading power company. And I'm sure you've heard about, all these issues with trying to clear brush out of the way, right, with high voltage transmission lines. And it's been the cause of many wildfires in the California area and so forth. So one of the good examples I've seen from them is they're working with a California power provider to sort through millions of video images of brush and obstructions that exist under these high tension lines, so they can specifically target, where do we go first with this? We really have to go address this area first. It's a potential fire hazard. So that's allowing them to a lot more effectively, address things like that. So that's your
yeah. I think the real reason I wanted to make sure we kind of covered all the hyperscalers was obviously there's a lot of partnerships that kind of Siemens with AWS, for example, may well be using their vision APIs, and similarly a lot of the traditional shop floor factory partners may be leveraging Microsoft's AI vision, right? And so there are some crossovers there that I want to make sure people don't cross one of those off the list for some reason. They need to understand the dynamics.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. And they are partnering a lot with the industrial suppliers, as well. So, more than likely you could find some kind of a solution that has that embedded from one of the leading suppliers. This was SDGE. I think San Diego Gas and Electric was using this particular application to analyze the images to detect, asset damage and trim trees and so forth. So those are the hyperscalers. There's a lot to look into there. If you look at the suppliers of video analytics and CCTV centric, in a CCTV centric way, that's where you have Bosch and Hikvision and Honeywell, for example, with Honeywell Video Manager. Larson and Toubro Technology Services, right? LTTS, they're using IE Analytics with their IBEMS system. So a lot of, and that's just a small list. I mean, there's a lot more suppliers out there doing CCTV stuff, and applying this. But, as I mentioned before, not a lot of this tends to be focused on the process, right, or the quality of a product. It's more, detecting people that shouldn't be in certain places, or making sure people are implementing the proper safety measures and things like that. Then we have the robotic and drone inspection providers. That includes companies like S&P Robotics, and of course everybody's familiar with Boston Dynamics, right, and the robot dogs and all that stuff. They actually have a really good visual inspection solution. We have Baker Hughes Waygate Technologies. They have a thing called the Bike Platform, right, which is a magnetic wheeled robot capable of inspecting power plant facilities and oil and gas industry facilities and stuff. So this is more of a remote inspection kind of thing, where they're implementing AI in their video inspections. Then we have Aerodyne and Volatus. We actually have a couple of market research studies at ARC that go into these products. In general, we don't see them branching out a lot outside of what they're doing now. They're really focused a lot on the robotics and the drones, and how that software can work with the sensors that they have in those robotics and drones. They're not really thinking so much about what other people are doing in other markets.
Yeah, I don't like to throw curveballs, but I guess I'm wondering, as we're talking about this, some of the industrial automation companies either have robotics or have recently acquired some form, whether it's warehouse robots or inspection robots. It's an area where, and they must have this issue of how, I need to apply computer vision to other aspects of my technology stack, and I've got this robot capability. So I guess there could be some interesting extension of that capability, because they have to think about it as a platform within their own businesses, right?
Yeah, that's right. And we are seeing some consolidation in this area. And I think you could probably expect the large automation providers to branch out more in this area, and acquire more, more companies, more expertise, and of course they have the ability to apply common, analytics and a common software platform across just about everything. So you definitely want to keep an eye on the big automation suppliers. I haven't focused a lot on them here. This is more of a specialty stuff that I'm talking about here. But Honeywell is a great example with Video Manager. I think everybody, every one of those big suppliers, Siemens, you mentioned Siemens earlier. I know Schneider is doing some stuff. So I think it's fair to assume that just about every large automation supplier is doing something in this area. Some are probably further ahead than others. The video analytics platform independent providers, I think, are quite interesting too. And again, as I mentioned before, these tend to be, a lot of startup companies, very software centric companies. I mean, this is all they're doing, right? They're developing analytics and AI based solutions to apply to anybody's cameras. And there are probably hundreds of companies out there doing this right now, right? Each one of those would have to be evaluated in terms of, long-term stability and what is their technology roadmap and what kind of alliances do they have and, all these kind of things. I have a few names that I pulled up here too. We have names like Viact AI, VIACT, which is a scenario-based AI using video analytics. We have a company called Clarify, CLARIF AI, which offers a variety of computer vision APIs, including object recognition. Grecom, that's a cloud-based video management system. Videonetics, they sell video management solutions targeted at occupational health and safety, right, for real-time anomaly detection so they can, find anomalies in pharma, oil and gas, refineries. Just tons of these platform independent companies that have sprung up now, just because of this promise of using analytics and AI in video and computer vision. I'm sure you probably saw a lot of these at Hanover also if you were there.
Right. And I could have spent my whole trip looking at those solutions, and I did cherry pick a few to look at just to see kind of what they were doing that was innovative if they caught my eye. But maybe we should transition, Larry. Have you gone through all the different kind of segments, or have we missed a segment?
No, those are the main segments. I haven't talked about the open initiatives and consortia that are involved. I can talk a little bit about that.
Maybe. But how mature are they? Are they? I'm guessing they're a work in progress because it's a relatively it's a fast moving space. So, but maybe
work in progress
paint us a thumbnail.
Space. These could be good places to start. If you're interested in tinkering with some stuff on your own, maybe customizing a solution. So we have organizations called OpenCV, which is a free and open source library for computer vision, provides a comprehensive set of algorithms for image and video processing and things like that. Tends to be popular with developers that want to build their own, custom computer vision applications. You can see them at opencv.org. We have TensorFlow, which is more of an end platform for machine learning, which sounds like you may be familiar with. Another free and open source software library for machine learning and AI you can use for a range of tasks. We have Caffe, CAFFE, which is a deep learning framework and developed by Berkeley AI Research. So that's another one you can look at. We have PyTorch, which is PyTorch, which is a machine learning library based on Torch library, used for computer vision and natural language processing, which was originally developed by Meta AI. And then we have TensorRT, which is a software development kit for high performance deep learning inference that includes a deep learning inference optimizer and runtime that delivers low latency and high throughput. So those are all open initiatives and consortia that you might want to check out if you're considering heading down this road. We tend to tell users to avoid investing too much in customized solutions, no matter what it is, really. I mean, it's one thing to kind of experiment and stuff, and I'm not I'm not trying to disparage the open consortia or anything, but if you are planning on building a customized solution for this, I would caution anybody that would be doing that, because it can become hard to maintain, right? It can be hard to be sustainable as technology changes and everything is changing so rapidly. Unless you're very competent and have been down that road before and know what you're doing, you may want to be cautious. That's all I would say.
Yeah, I guess we've seen a lot of larger industrial manufacturers or energy producers, probably more on the, let's say it may be more on the discrete manufacturing side that where I see it, right? Kind of the big automotive guys have massive IT departments and kind of invest in building their own platforms. So engineering is kind of a big thing in many of these larger organizations that have significant development capacity and have kind of built expertise on building.
Right. And these
systems,
are organizations that have that capacity and they have that competence. And, I'm sure they, not every organization tends to have that same level of competence. So.
No, and the question sometimes is should they be doing that is a different question. But I think I take your point, right? This is moving quick, and unless computer vision unless you happen to be, I don't know, a Sony or a Carl Zeiss who happens to be also in the business of producing sensors and optics, so maybe there's a different case to be made there. But if if it's not your core competence, then maybe you should be looking at how do I get mainstream.
And I also want to mention that a lot of the big suppliers do support these initiatives and consortia as well. So
great. Okay. So maybe let's wrap it up with some closing thoughts on if you're at an industrial organization today and you've got questions about which direction to go in terms of adopting computer vision. I guess it's the why adopt the computer vision and how, maybe a couple of thoughts just to close on, Larry.
Well, my thoughts would be you've already adopted computer vision, right? I don't care what plant or manufacturing facility or critical infrastructure facility you're working on, you're going to have a lot of video inputs. You have computer vision already. The question is that have you applied, the right analytics and AI to this computer vision to make better decisions about your business? And that's where the real value is. So in a lot of cases, this probably won't require huge initial upfront capital investments, right? These are technologies that you already have. And if you look at certain, very promising use cases that have, the most promising rates of return, and the most promising business value, I think this is a great example of how you can actually use AI to achieve a good business result. And then, of course, you have kind of the holy grail, that I mentioned earlier, which is really being able to apply video analytics and AI to your entire spectrum of computer vision applications within your plant. And that's, I think, when you get into that cross-discipline kind of optimization and things like that, to me, that's where a lot of the value really starts coming out. And you start looking at interrelationships that maybe you didn't see before, and cost savings opportunities that jump out at you that didn't exist before. So, in a lot of ways, we're kind of in new territory here, but, we've already seen some very promising, economic value, in a lot of these applications. It's a great place to start, if you are looking at a digital transformation program. It's a relatively easy way, to take a lot of this video input and apply AI and get a benefit from it, quickly. And then expand your digital transformation, project out from there. There are challenges and there are difficulties. It's like I mentioned, with all these different suppliers in the landscape, it's really hard to find one supplier that can do everything that you need to do. So, make very sure what your requirements are and evaluate your suppliers, based on that to make sure they can fulfill, all your requirements in terms of providing a solution. And, if you're not looking to a single supplier, then determine who you need to partner with, in terms of, engineering expertise and so forth to actually make this happen. And that's another thing, right? Many of the suppliers in this space, tend not to have extensive, substantial service capabilities, right? I think especially when you look at a lot of these startup companies that are just getting involved in video analytics and AI, they're software companies. They don't have a lot of that service expertise. So that's something that you need to think about. And you need to find a systems integrator partner that understands whatever industry that you're in, as well as the technology, right? They have to speak the language of your industry and know your applications. This is a nascent market. We mentioned supplier selection before. I mean, you really have to look at, is this company going to be around in 10 years, or is this kind of a flash in the pan, startup company? And avoid too much customization would be my final piece of advice. I mean, I know there's a lot of companies that have that expertise to develop customized solutions, but after so many years in the industry and seeing end users develop customized solutions for many different things, I can tell you it gets very much harder to sustain, in the long term. I mean, I would point to the example of the Dow Mod 5 system, right? I mean, Dow made a great control system. Back in the 90s, it was a great control system, did a great job, but it was ultimately unsustainable because Dow wasn't a software company, so Mod 5 kind of went by the wayside and, they went on to other things. So, just be careful if you're going to do customized solutions. That's all I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had some, as you were talking through those, and I think those are all great guidance on how to approach it. I kind of was thinking about how we worked with a couple of our clients, and I think what we ended up doing really was going through a portfolio of use cases, right, which was in discovering that they already had a number. They didn't necessarily call them computer vision, but they were using computer vision technologies, and we ended up cataloging many of the use cases they already had, not always on the same platforms, to your earlier point. And so it feels a little bit like IoT in some ways, right? You end up with lots of different use cases, pockets of use cases across the company. And what some of the companies are trying to do now is say, all right, this is a bigger thing. We need to take more of a platform approach to this and
right.
consolidate where appropriate to try and get some scale. Now that it's kind of a mainstream application of AI, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where it's going. I think we're going to see increasing, platformatization, I guess, if you want to call it that. Yeah, that does seem to be, the way that things evolve, in the industrial space.
I know you're still digging deep into this, right, Larry? You're still researching it and compiling some of those suppliers. So
yes. This is an ongoing topic of research for ARC. We are going to be publishing a report on this fairly soon. We're talking about doing our typical, the quantitative side of things, sizing the market for this and forecasting the market by various industries and applications and so forth. So this is something that we'll be following continuously from now on.
Okay, so thanks, Larry. I think on that note, obviously if there's anyone listening to this or watching this podcast that really is actively looking for guidance or is a supplier that wants to make sure we don't miss them, then they should really reach out to ARC and Larry specifically with that request, and we'll see if we can help you make progress or take a logical step forward. But it's been great chatting with you, Larry. I look forward to maybe talking again in a few months' time, maybe as the market continues to evolve.
That sounds great, Colin. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody. You've been listening to the ARC Digital Transformation and Sustainability podcast. This is one of our industrial AI series of podcasts. Subscribe if you want to hear more on varied topics around how ARC catalogs what's going on in the AI wars, particularly in the AI wars as they apply and can be taken advantage of in the industrial sector. This is Colin Masson, and I was talking with Larry O'Brien from ARC.
Thanks for tuning in to ARC Advisory Group's Digital Transformation Podcast. Today, we explored how to accelerate your digital transformation through effective governance, change management, and application of technology at scale. Now's the time to take what you've heard and start implementing these changes in your own work. Please share this episode with others who are passionate about applying technology the right way to address skills gaps, create more intelligent processes, while building a more profitable and sustainable future. For those looking to go deeper, ARC Advisory Group offers unparalleled guidance in developing digital transformation strategies for industrial organizations. Please reach out to us for these expert insights and support that can help you turn these ideas into action and lead your organization towards a more profitable and sustainable path.